Hey guys, it's Arthur. Last week I was browsing the internet. I was on Amazon and I was just browsing through lenses for the Sony E-mount, and I came across a new lens from 7artisans and it was quite interesting, and I sent them an email. I said, hey, send me this lens, I'd love to review it, and they did. Here it is. This is the 7artisans 60mm f2.8 macro. And it looks very unique. Let's check out how it comes packaged. So this is the box that the lens comes in. 7artisans has really been stepping up their boxes. This is nice. It has a picture of the macro lens on the front, 26cm long range macro 1:1, and it says 60mm f2.8 macro for Sony E. Some more info on the back. Inside you get some nice foam padding for the lens, and here is everything that comes packaged. You get a rear lens cap that's just plastic, a tiny branded front lens cap, plastic as well, an inspection card, and a small user guide. And here is the lens. Look at that. It looks like it's broken, looks like it's missing a front lens element, but that is just the way that this lens is built. You can probably touch it with your finger if you reach down in there, but the lens element is way back here. 7artisans branding on the front, macro, 60mm f2.8. Around the side you get some markings for minimum focusing distances, and then you have aperture control on the bottom. It is a D-clicked aperture, goes from f2.8, you can see, all the way to f16. Around the back there are no electronic connections because this is a manual only focus lens. So all manual controls, but it has a nice metal mount. And overall the lens is built very well. It feels very heavy and it feels well built, like it's made out of all metal and glass. Now let's talk about the focus ring, which is one of the best, smoothest focus rings I think that I've ever tried. Here's what happens when you start to turn it. Look at that. That inner barrel extends quite a ways. It almost makes the lens twice as long as it was before, and it looks awesome. So you can see the front element there, hopefully. It's reflecting some light, but by extending this out, the front lens element is really at the face of the bulky part of this lens. And you can see some markings here, 1:1, 1:1. So at this point with the barrel extended, you are at 1:1 magnification for a macro lens, which is awesome. Now, the action on this is super duper buttery smooth. Nice grip here, it's all metal. It is just perfect, honestly. It is very quiet, has a good amount of heft to it, so it's not like it's lightweight, it's not gonna budge on its own. Let's get it on the camera and see what it looks like. Here is the lens mounted on my a6500. You can see just how long it is. It is a longer lens and it is a heavier lens, so it does make your camera setup a little bit more front heavy, but it's not too bad at all. As far as color goes, this is a little bit more glossy black versus the semi-glossy, semi-matte finish on the a6500, but I don't think that it looks too out of place at all. And as you start twisting this focus/magnifying ring, you can see there it is, fully extended. It looks awesome. There are some coatings, it's kind of purplish and pinkish. So you guys are probably curious, well, what can you do with a lens like this? Here are some sample photos and videos, all done on my Sony a6400. Here we go. So that is it for the sample photos and videos, and what can I say, this lens is awesome. At least I think so. Haven't been this excited about a cheap manual lens in a long time. It's been at least a year. And this is just so different. It's refreshing to try out something that's just so unique. It reminds me, as far as design, reminds me a lot of the Laowa 24mm super long lens. Now this lens obviously doesn't offer the 4:1 magnification of the Laowa, but on the flip side, it also doesn't require carrying around a case the size of a cello around with you. It also doesn't cost $1,600, so two positives there. Now let's talk about macro lenses in general for a little bit. Now, when it comes to a regular lens, a non-macro lens, let's say the Sony 35 for example, you are looking at two factors. Number one is how fast it is, the aperture, so f1.8 on the Sony 35. Number two is the focal length, so 35mm. When it comes to a macro lens, while those two features are important, they are not as important as number three, which is magnification. So this lens is a 60mm and it is an f2.8 lens. So you can use this in theory if you wanted to take portraits. The problem with this is that this lens was designed to focus up close, very close. So you have about a centimeter range for focusing on subjects that are 2 feet and further away from you. So it's not ideal, although you can take a decent portrait. Not the best idea in the world because it's probably not going to be as easy as a normal 60mm f2.8 lens. So let's break down those three aspects of this lens. So yes, this lens is f2.8, which is relatively quick in the world of lenses, but for macro photography, you're probably going to be stopping it down, so it's not that big of a deal, even if it was an f4 lens, for example. Number two, the focal length. This is a 60mm lens, but it is a 60mm macro lens, so it's a little bit different. It's not like you're going to be shooting a bumblebee on a flower that's 20 feet away from you. With this lens, you still need to get up close and personal with your subject. That means very, very close. And lastly, number three, which is magnification, which is, in my opinion, the most important aspect of a good macro lens. Now, by the definition, a macro lens should be able to magnify whatever it is that you're taking a photo of by at least a factor of 1:1. However, there are a lot of macro lenses that get you close to the subject but don't really magnify all that much. This lens, you get 1:1 magnification, which means, just kind of in simple terms, that the object, let's say a bumblebee that you're taking a photo of, is the exact same size as what the sensor is receiving. So that means if the bumblebee is 1 inch tall, that 1 inch bumblebee is being reflected directly to the sensor. So the sensor is seeing an image that is 1 inch tall. It is 1:1. Now there are macro lenses that magnify greater than 1:1. You can have like a 4:1, which is what that Laowa 25mm lens does. However, for most people, when it comes to a macro lens, 1:1 magnification is perfectly adequate, more than enough. If you can take a photo of a blueberry and it takes up the entire screen, I'd say it's a pretty dang good macro lens. All right, I'm done with my macro lens tangent. Using this lens was a lot of fun. It was very easy once you got the shakiness stabilized, i.e. using a tripod. Optically, the image quality I think is excellent. I didn't see any distortion, any chromatic aberration in the lens. I think the coatings are great. There is a whole lot of detail if you nail the focus correctly, but it's difficult when you have a moving subject like a bug that's crawling around all over the place. Build quality is superb, one of the best built lenses I've seen from 7artisans, which is saying a lot because they make some excellent lenses, so no complaints whatsoever. The only thing that I would warn you about if you are planning on purchasing this lens is that I would probably use the front lens cap on it, because if you get that front lens element dirty, I have no idea how you'd clean that out. It's hard to see in there, and you'd have to reach in there with some sort of microfiber with an extension handle or Q-tip or something. So just be careful of that. The most impressive thing about this lens is what you're getting for your money. Excellent image quality, a great build, super duper smooth focus ring, fast aperture, excellent focal length for shooting macro, and that ever important 1:1 magnification, all in a package that's not too huge and it's very simple and easy to use. You can buy this lens today on Amazon for $159, which in my opinion is a steal. If you are in the market for a great macro lens, I would definitely recommend this. For the money, I don't think you can beat it with anything right now. If you have an eBay store where you're selling small items, if you need macro shots for a YouTube video, or if you just want to add a great lens to your collection that's not going to cost way too much and will allow you to take very close-up shots of insects or blueberries, definitely check this thing out. As always, I will post a link down below to Amazon where you guys can click through and read all about it and buy it if you are interested. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of this lens, its performance, whether you use macro lenses a lot, what your overall thoughts are with macro lenses in general. Always curious to read all of your comments. Thank you guys for all of your likes and your support as well. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, then hit the subscribe button. What are you doing with your life? I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.